Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lace Real Talk. Hi. Okay, I'm back. Didn't we have some fun this Thursday? I wish every program could be as fun as our anniversary video. People told me that I looked completely relaxed. Yes, I was, because I wasn't under that much pressure to produce content because we had a great guest. And also I had a little fun playing with my music songs. My music videos. All right. Well, by now you probably have already heard about the massive fire in Hong Kong, a blaze that killed at least 128 people. It erupted on Wednesday across 7 out of 8 buildings in a residential complex. Here we go. And the name is called Hong Fuk Court. So it took firefighters days to fully extinguish it. And on Friday, Hong Kong's security secretary, his name is Chris Tong, confirmed 128 deaths, with dozens still in critical condition in hospitals and more than 200 people still missing. The final casualty count will most likely rise. But this fire didn't just reveal a tragedy, it ripped open a web of deeper problems inside Hong Kong today. Many people are calling it the mainland, this is a new word that I learned today. It's called mainlandization of Hong Kong. In Chinese, we say 大陆化. We translate in English, it's called mainlandization of Hong Kong. Right, Hong Kong essentially becoming more like the mainland. So the former British colony, once known as the Pearl of the Far East, is looking more and more like the mainland, with failed oversight, declining standards, corruption, negligence, and now attempts at a cover-up. So people say a disaster like this would never have happened 20 years ago, back when Hong Kong still upheld the standards left from the British era. Now, under Beijing's rule, those safeguards are gone. This fire ignited a much bigger battle, a clash between two political systems and two ideologies, the values of mainland China versus those of the Hong Kong that once existed. Now, Beijing is clearly feeling the pressure, feeling the heat. Sources say the PLA garrison in Hong Kong has been ordered to stay on alert in case public anger erupts. So today, let's get to the bottom of this fire. What caused it? And what bigger structural problems does it expose? Now, when the fire started, let's begin with the official version of what has happened. According to Hong Kong's Secretary for Security, Chris Tong, at a press conference on Friday, the fire began on the outer wall of the ground floor of one of the houses, Hong Chen House. Actually, Hong Fu. Here are some pictures. Okay. So they said that the net caught fire first, then the flames jumped to the highly flammable foam panels wrapped around the windows and exterior walls. Those panels burned extremely fast. The heat caused the glass to explode. The fire intensified and flames rushed into the building. Within minutes, the fire was sweeping both inside and outside. The bamboo scaffolding then caught fire. Burning fragments broke apart, and they fell everywhere. And that ignited nearby buildings. That's the official claim. And Tong said the intense heat caused the bamboo structures to splinter and collapse, making the firefighting extremely difficult. He also blamed the collapsed scaffolding for blocking emergency exits, blocking the main entrance, and preventing fire trucks from reaching ideal rescue positions. So in short, the official line is, or was, the fire was simply too intense. The culprits were the flammable foam boards and the bamboo scaffolding. Now, unsurprisingly, this narrative or this explanation matches the exact narrative pushed by the mainland Chinese state media and social media accounts. They blame the bamboo and blame the foam boards, mostly the bamboo. But something doesn't add up. A closer look shows systemic failures everywhere. Let me just show you some pictures. I don't know, here's a picture. First of all, in a renovation project of this size, work is never done on all 8 buildings at once. Normally, they renovate 1 block at a time, but here all 8 towers were wrapped with scaffoldings, safety nets, and foam boards simultaneously, completely against standard safety rules. And number 2, the emergency response system failed right at the start. Most building alarms did not work. Residents received no timely warning and lost precious escape time. Some didn't even know their own building was burning and learned about it on social media. One resident only found out after a call from his daughter in South Korea. And residents had previously repeatedly complained about workers smoking on site, with cigarette butts scattered everywhere. The Homeowners Association and the contractor ignored all complaints. Worst of all, there were no fire extinguishers on site at the construction site. So the fire spread with unusual speed. Some believe the contractor used inferior mainland China-made exterior wall panels, and they're called paper stone. Could you imagine paper stone as your exterior wall, which burned like paper? So unlike the fire-resistant materials used in the British era, these fragile mainland China-made exterior walls were part of the problem. And once ignited, they allowed flames to race straight up the wall. So that's what people suspect was the reason behind such, the speed of the flames. Now, the foam boards covering the windows and the exterior walls were substandard. When burning, they released toxic fumes, posing a deadly hazard to residents and firefighters. Also, the fire department's response was extremely slow. Water wasn't sprayed until almost 2 hours after the fire started. People also noticed several standard firefighting procedures were skipped, and mainland Chinese fire trucks and ambulances were also spotted on site, raising questions about who was actually responding. And there's more. Now, these serious safety violations were not the mistakes of 1 or 2 workers or departments. They were the failures of an entire system. Soon after the fire, Beijing authorities, mainland state media, and even Western media, which all copied the mainland Chinese media, they all blamed the bamboo scaffolding, calling it the main culprit. But Hong Kong residents insist the bamboo wasn't the problem. The safety nets were. But Chris Tong claimed at the press conference that the netting met flame retardant standards. But he never told us whose standards, and that matters. Because as exposed online, the renovation contractor, which is Hong Yip Construction Company, used safety nets manufactured in mainland China by a company in Shandong. Their flame retardant certificate also came from a Shandong lab. These nets were not certified under Hong Kong's system and did not meet Hong Kong's fire safety standard. And these two standards are absolutely not the same. Mainland standard safety nets are 30 to 50% cheaper and their flame retardant requirements are much lower than Hong Kong's. So yes, you can technically say they passed a standard, but in reality, their fire resistance was far weaker. And the money saved by choosing these cheap mainland products, it came at the cost of Hong Kong residents' lives. Now, so why did Hong Kong abandon its higher standard? There's a historical background. After a major fire in Jiansha in 1972, Hong Kong government required all construction safety nets to follow either Hong Kong Laboratory Accreditation Scheme, which is called HOKLAS, which is a strict internationally recognized testing and certification system used in Hong Kong for fire safety, material quality, and construction standards, or the BS standards, British standards, the UK's rigorous building and fire safety standards, which Hong Kong adopted during the colonial era. Both are far stricter than mainland Chinese standards. And why were mainland certified materials suddenly allowed? Well, because Beijing has been pushing the Greater Bay Area integration for the past 6 years. It's called the GBA, Greater Bay Area. The GBA initiative aims to merge Hong Kong, Macau, and 9 Guangdong cities into a single economic and administrative bloc of 86 million people. It was launched in 2017 and formalized in 2019. It's marketed as a Chinese Silicon Valley, bringing together finance, technology, manufacturing, and infrastructure. But this was never just about technology. It was a political project. It's designed as a campaign to pull Hong Kong firmly into the mainland's regulatory, industrial, and governance system. Through unified standards, joint projects, and cross-border coordination, Hong Kong's autonomy and distinct identity gradually shrink as it becomes just like any part of a mainland-dominated region. And after 6 years of this integration, industry standards dropped, quality control dropped, Hong Kong's old safeguards collapsed, hidden fire risks accumulated everywhere. And this tragedy is part of that larger story. Okay, next I want to talk about the bamboo scaffolding versus safety nets, because it's a narrative battle. Do I have a picture? Yeah, as you can see in this picture, the building that was on fire in the center on the left, the scaffoldings were the net, the green net all burned down, but some of the scaffolding was still still intact. Okay, let me tell you what the mainland Chinese narratives are. Okay, let me talk about these scaffolding. So mainland officials and state media are now aggressively blaming bamboo scaffolding, calling it outdated and dangerous, and that the mainland is so advanced that they all use metal scaffolding. And that claim simply isn't supported by facts. Now, bamboo scaffolding has been used safely in Hong Kong for over 100 years, possibly 200 years. Yes, bamboo can burn under extreme heat, but it is not a strong heat conductor. Even when exposed to fire, heat does not travel quickly along its length. That's why people in southern China and Southeast Asia, they cook rice directly inside bamboo tubes. They put the bamboo tubes on fire to cook rice. The outside chars, but the heat doesn't immediately penetrate or deform the tube, the bamboo tube. So bamboo scaffolding has always been standard practice in Hong Kong for a reason. Now, Hong Kong is incredibly dense with the narrow streets and alleys and very tight alleys. Steel scaffolding is heavy and requires large machinery and space to set up. And space, the Hong Kong simply doesn't have that kind of space. Bamboo, on the other hand, is light, flexible, easy to carry, and easy to assemble in cramped areas. And because of this unique environment, Hong Kong developed a whole professional ecosystem around it. The craftsmen who built bamboo scaffolding, known as scaffold masters, undergo strict training and must hold official certification. And importantly, the main risks of bamboo scaffolding are not fire. The biggest weaknesses are it's not earthquake resistant. And number two, it absorbs water. And its load bearing strength is lower, much lower than metal. But those are the primary safety reasons, but not fire. But regardless, the mainland Chinese commentators kept shouting, saying, just use metal scaffolding like we do, and Hong Kong would be a better place. But it's not that simple. Steel scaffolding doesn't burn, but it has its own serious problems. Steel is a strong heat conductor. In a fire, it heats up quickly. It softens quickly. And once its joints warp, the entire structure can collapse under its own weight. In a tight city like Hong Kong, a collapsed steel structure can block emergency exits and trap people inside, or block fire truck entirely. And metal scaffolding has caused fatal outcomes before because of this quality. So in 2010, Shanghai's Jing'an district fire, it's a major fire, killed 58 people and injured 71. They used metal scaffolding. The metal didn't burn, but it collapsed after heating up and deformed. And in the 2019 famous Notre Dame Cathedral fire in Paris, the metal scaffolding melted and came crashing down, destroying large sections of the roof. So the issue isn't bamboo or metal. There are simply two different engineering solutions with different trade-offs. The real safety comes from the quality of building materials, the proper fire safety management on site, supervision, enforcement of regulations. And this is why China's focus on bamboo is so suspicious. After the flames died down, most bamboo frames were still standing. Meanwhile, the safety nets were burned away entirely, as you can see in this picture. So that alone tells you where the real problem lies. Now, Hong Kong residents overwhelmingly point this out. They said that the safety nets, were the problem because they burned to nothing. So this public versus official shouting match highlights a deeper battle between the two systems or two narratives. If bamboo scaffolding is the problem, then Hong Kong's own system is outdated. Beijing's standards are the winner, right? Beijing's standards are not to blame. Then it means that Hong Kong's outdated own system is to blame. Now, if the safety nets are the problem, mainland materials endangered Hong Kong. Beijing's system is responsible and illegitimate. And so that leads to another key question. Why is the safety? I should say that's part of the reason behind this debate. But there's another reason, which is that which stems from the question, why is the safety net such a sensitive issue for Beijing? Who exactly manufactured these nets? Many people online quickly discover that the factory producing these safety nets is a company in Shandong called Chengxu fiber, rope, and net company. The legal representative is a woman named Zhang Shanshan, and that name triggered an internet storm. A few years ago, there was a mysterious young woman, also named Zhang Shanshan, whose family made a fortune running multiple COVID testing companies during China's infamous zero COVID lockdowns. So people started asking, is this the same Zhang Shanshan behind these safety nets? Then came another claim. Xi Jinping's sister-in-law, well, actually, yeah, Xi Jinping's sister-in-law, the sister of the wife of his brother Xi Jinping. Let me put it this way. The wife of Xi Jinping's brother, Xi Jinping, has a younger sister named Zhang Shanshan. So, of course, as you can expect, rumors exploded. The internet began speculating that the Xi family's business interests were behind the massive Hong Kong renovation project, and therefore behind the deadly safety nets. But some people did some digging, and here's the reality. Having the same name in China is very common. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the same person. There are countless women named Zhang Shanshan, and based on what we know, Xi Jinping's in-laws or his brother's in-laws are from Chongqing, Sichuan. The netting company is in rural Shandong, and its owner is a woman in her late 20s or early 30s. And her age, background, and geography don't directly match Xi Jinping's in-law. And so there's no credible evidence that they're the same person, although it's still possible because they have the same name. But even if it's not Xi Jinping's in-law or his brother's in-law, it still does raise questions, right? That this young woman, people found out, this Zhang Shanshan in Shandong owns multiple companies at a very young age. And in China, that already makes people wonder about the background and connections, even if she isn't tied to the Xi family. So now let's talk about the real problem, the troublemaker here, the contractor, Hong Fuk Construction. They are the contractor who chose which materials to use. So they are held responsible. I think if a few of them, the executives of the company are already being arrested. The authorities arrested a half dozen people already. So in 2023, the Homeowners Association of this gigantic complex, which has 2,000 households, they interviewed 14 contractors. Among the 5 that supposedly qualified, Hong Fuk scored the lowest. Their track record was terrible. Their engineering license failed renewal in 2019. The company has been prosecuted 140 times over 21 years. Between 2019 and 2023, they received 2 official safety negligence fines, one for unsafe scaffolding installation and one for unsafe access routes. Residents repeatedly complain about workers from this company working on site. Safety discipline on site was known to be extremely poor, and yet this company won a 330 million Hong Kong dollar contract, which is about 42 US dollars. 42 million US dollars. Yeah, it's 330 million Hong Kong dollars, 42 US million dollars. That's a gigantic project. For any contractor to get a project, it's a massive project, right? Even in the United States. So how did they get it? Well, because the Homeowners Association was backed by at least 2 pro-Beijing lawmakers who forced this contractor through despite all the red flags. And when residents raised alarms about fire hazard, what happened? They were told the complaints were politically motivated. They were labeled as yellow camp troublemakers. They were accused of destabilizing society, and all their legitimate safety concerns were dismissed as overreacting. This is textbook political override. Politics crushing basic safety. Now, you have to remember the $330 million bill was paid by the roughly 2,000 homeowners in the complex. And that means each household paid about $165,000. And that's about $20,000. I mean, 20,000 US dollars. It's 165 Hong Kong dollars per family. And it's about 20 something. Yeah, 22 to 23,000 US dollars in renovation fees. It's a lot of money that people put up to have the whole building renovated. I mean, the outside of the building renovated. Now their home is gone. Their money is gone and their home is gone. And they might have even lost family members. So, yeah, so the core problem isn't bamboo, it's political system or the political system. The real killer is the political culture the CCP has imposed on Hong Kong. Politics above engineering, above standards, above public safety, above accountability, from the low-quality, non-fire retardant safety nets to the inferior mainland-made wall panels or paper stones, to the raw materials selected through a corrupted supply chain. The issue wasn't just one product. The entire supply chain, people say, chose cheap mainland China materials that were never suitable for high-rise residential buildings. Now, these condos are not cheap. Someone did the math. They cost on average about $500,000 US dollars. So they're not, yeah, I mean, they're pricey, even by US standards. Now, after the fire, other buildings across Hong Kong quietly removed the safety nets, but not the bamboo scaffolding. That tells you exactly what the real problem was. You know, in mainland China, there's an expression called, behind every natural disaster, there's a man-made one. This expression isn't always true in law-abiding places, but in China, it's always true. Almost every man-made failure gets reframed as a natural accident. And that mindset has now become Hong Kong's reality. And people saw the same logic at play here. Actually, what's ironic is Hong Kong's Labor Department claimed that it had conducted 16 inspections on this project since last July, including one just a week before the fire. So naturally, people are asking, so how did they miss such blatant violations? To many Hong Kongers, this feels just like China's infamous flood prevention inspections. Everything looks perfect on paper, but the moment the rain hits, the dam overflows and suddenly they are discharging water. It makes you wonder what the inspections were ever for. Sadly, Hong Kong used to be a city known for rule of law, accountability, and relatively low level of corruption scandals. But this fire made people feel that their city has been mainlandized. And that emotional shock is a big reason why this story exploded. So by mainlandized, they mean materials likely sourced from mainland China with quality issues, weak or non-existent oversight, declining standards, corruption at every level, and everything becoming political. fixing the root cause is urgent, but mission impossible. People are very anxious right now. People in Hong Kong are very anxious. Actually, people living outside China, Chinese people are all very anxious because there are a lot of Canadians who have family members in Hong Kong. So they're all very anxious because Hong Kong is a tiny and extremely dense place. Almost everyone except the ultra rich lives in a high rise. And many of those towers built since the 1960s are hitting the age where major repairs are needed. If the system is full of loopholes like this, how can people feel safe? So public backlash, backlash is going to be fierce. But publicly, the debate that's going on between the officials and the public is the authorities want people to believe the tragedy happened because Hong Kong wasn't integrated enough with the mainland. But the public fears the opposite, that Hong Kong has integrated too much. It has lost its standards and safeguards and is now paying a deadly price for it. And that's the public debate between the two sides. Hong Kong is run by Beijing-approved quote-unquote patriots. Government officials and lawmakers all come from the same political faction or family. Without a real opposition in the legislative body, Hong Kong increasingly functions like the mainland. But I think the Hong Kong officials are now trapped in a political catch-22. Admit the real cause and expose the failures of mainland standards, or stick to Beijing's narrative and lose public trust. Either way, this fire has opened the questions that they can no longer easily bury. But things just, I think there will be heads rolling in Hong Kong. Some of them will become the scapegoat. All right, that's what I have. So, fire. Actually, someone told me that one of the movies released in December 2024, actually, it was played by Liu Dehua, one of the famous actors in Hong Kong. In that movie, somehow he had a line that predicted 8 buildings in Hong Kong will go on fire. So it becomes very, it becomes spooky, right? Think about it. And particularly with the story of the actor Alan Yu's death, because he played in a drama that kind of is similar to the tragedy that he was subject to. He almost like kind of played in a drama that foretold his own death. So with that background information in mind, so it's kind of very scary for people to realize that a major Hong Kong movie last year predicted that 8 buildings in Hong Kong will go on fire. I mean, not 8, in this case, 7 buildings went on fire, but it was in a community, in a community that has 8 buildings. So it's eerily worrisome. All right, let's see. Well, first of all, I want to thank the people who gave me super stickers, who gave me money at the live stream, the anniversary live stream. I ran out of time acknowledging them, and hopefully I want to acknowledge them here. Let's see. Do I have their names? Oh, yes. Let's see. So, sorry, I can't. I don't see all of their names. Paul Levchek, there's anonymous one. There's Alice Hu. There's John Allen. Mark Irvin, and a dozen of others. I'm sorry, the names are blocked on my screen. I can't see them, but I do want to thank you for your support. I was not able to read your names during the live, but I do want to thank you. All right, let's see. Questions, comments? Let's see, what do people say? Oh, here's a question. Oh, someone, Christy Bauer. Lei, I hope you explain why Hong Kong is now under China's rule. I don't know the history about that. Well, Hong Kong was a British colony for 100 years until the mainland, the CCP took it back in 1997. But the CCP at the time, the CCP promised one country, two systems, and gave Hong Kong autonomy for 50 years. But it has not been 50 years, right? Since 1997, it's still under 30 years. But the CCP couldn't wait to destroy Hong Kong's political system and style of governance. So the CCP never keeps its promise. So yeah, it used to be a British colony. And people, if you talk to people from Hong Kong, it's very interesting. They don't see themselves as Chinese because their passport, they see themselves as someone associated with the Great Britain. Very interesting. And the culture in Hong Kong is very unique. Yeah, it's, I would say it used to be the most westernized Chinese-speaking place, right? Yeah, but now, no, they're becoming more like mainland China, and it also serves a stern warning to Taiwan. I think people in Taiwan are watching this. Those pro-Beijing Taiwanese need to wake up. This is the reality you will soon face if you let CCP in. So, yeah. All right, well, let me see. Hello, Lei. Excited to hear your perspective tonight from Sally GW. Well, thank you, Sally. All right, let's see. This fire broke out on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, but they put out on Friday. It took them 2 days. All right, let's see. D Glass. Oh, that's not addressed to me. All right, what do you think? What do you think of my songs? I released them as single, but it's kind of strange for YouTube to figure out the algorithm because this is not a channel to release music videos. So I think the YouTube algorithm is confused right now, trying to figure out who is interested in the song. All right, let's see. Oh, here's one. Martin Vanoni. Well, thank you. You're from Canada. Well, thank you, Martin. Thank you very much. The free account. It doesn't exactly make no sense. Since the London Grenfell Tower fire in 2017, 80 deaths, a lot of buildings have been inspecting the flammability of their claddings. Obviously, this is the least competent way to do so. I mean, of all the problems I told you about tonight, I mean, you can see it's, like I said, it's not the failure of several departments or individuals. It's the failure of an entire system. It's just not like say, oh, the contractor has hired some construction workers who didn't follow safety rules, and they were smoking on site. It wasn't. Everything failed, from government oversight to the homeowners, the corruption in the homeowners association, to the corruption in the malpractice by the contractor. Everyone had a part in it. Everything has broken down. I think this fire perfectly illustrates the damage, the harm the CCP system can do to a benign, law-abiding system. It can ruin it very quickly by integrating it into the mainland China. This is exactly what happens when you open your door to welcome the CCP to your household. This is what happens to your household. It's played out right in front of our eyes. So anyone who still dream of coexisting with the CCP, I think they should wake up. Evelyn Rose, Evelyn Rose. Like, I loved your song. You have a talent you are unaware of. I saw your YouTube release of the songs. Yes, we want to release them. Well, I don't think it's my talent. I think it's the composer and then the vocalist. They're very, very talented. I just had an idea. I just had an idea of what kind of song I want to write. And what I want to say in the song, and also have an idea of the type of music I want. Actually, when I told the composer, who happens to be someone I know, I didn't know that I didn't know that we know each other. So when it turns out, oh, it's you. Okay, great. You are the composer. Okay, now. So she asked me, what kind of music do you want for this song? So I told her, well, I want it to be epic. And then she said, do you want Chinese or Western? I said, I want universal, but with a Chinese flair to it. And I said, I want the music has to be peaceful enough to make people think, but powerful enough to really bring out the meaning about courage and wisdom, because these are very powerful words. And so that's pretty much the requirements I gave her. I don't think I told her a whole lot. I just said, these are what I want. It should be peaceful, but it should also have some a good amount of intensity. And so this is where she came up. And I was like, I almost feel like this is exactly what I told her. She did exactly what I said. So I think she did a good job. And then the vocalist really, really did a good job singing it. And all three women are perfectly bilingual. And so I think this is what's amazing. The composer is a woman who has lived in the West for many years. And the singer, of course, she's bilingual. She sang both songs perfectly in two languages. So I think this is amazing. I really think that we should continue our collaboration and write more songs. I was seriously thinking about that today. What do you think? Maybe a new song every month? All right. That means Lei will be busier. Okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, Justapular? Oh, thank you. Thank you. I don't know I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Dak Sharker. I believe the fire was deliberately lit. There are people who believe that. Well, that borders on a conspiracy theory. And I'm not ready to go that far yet, but it's possible. We'll see what people come up with. I've heard that. Someone said, your idea, lyrics, composition, and vocals work beautifully in harmony. Yeah, speaking of songwriting, I realize nowadays we have so many songs, right? And I think people focus more on the music, the melody, and they don't focus on lyrics. And almost like if you hear a song, you immediately you're drawn to the music. You say, "Ooh, this song is interesting. I want to hear it." And as far as what is the person singing, you're like, okay, I'm not quite sure, but the song sounds beautiful. And what I realized through working with this team is that I think lyrics are more important. The idea, the concept is more important. I really think music should complement. Music should bring out what you want to express, what you want to say. Um, but unfortunately, we don't see a lot of songs with very powerful lyrics nowadays. Very few. So that really give me the hope that maybe we can create a music channel where music and lyrics are well integrated. So that's my idea. We'll know. I don't know what's next. Lei has too many ideas and only two arms and one head. All right, we'll see. Yeah, someone, okay, all right. How does three buildings in New York fall like Legos from fire on a couple floors, but Chinese buildings completely engulfed in flames don't fall? Well, it's because American buildings are wood structure, right? Americans use a lot of wood because wood is accessible to Americans. Whereas in China, in Hong Kong, using wood for constructions are very expensive. Now, I don't know, I'm not talking about the high rises, but American residential homes are all built with wood. So, but the Chinese use cement a lot, right? They don't use wood, or they don't use as much wood. Even the small houses use cement and not wood. All right. Okay, that's all for today. I reached the bottom of the comments. Oh, here's a question forwarded by Chris from Mint Creative. In recent times, Singapore uses so many China developers for public housing and infrastructure. Do you think Singapore government sold themselves to CCP? I would worry. If I were someone living in one of those properties or housing projects, I would be concerned. Maybe they don't the signs of defections don't show right now, but sooner or later they will show up. I made a video about the only building that collapsed in Bangkok during the Myanmar earthquake, and it was because of poor Chinese construction. So you could check in my other channel, in Lei's Looking Glass. So I really do not believe in Chinese construction. Any countries, any entities that have hired Chinese SOEs to build their infrastructure and their housing projects, you'd better do an inspection right now, just to make sure that the same tragedy doesn't happen in your city or in your community. Because you should go through a thorough inspection. But then on the other hand, the people responsible for the projects are probably compromised when interacting with the Chinese. So it's not in their best interest to find out all the problems of the construction. So it's very tough. Okay, someone said, Norbert, if this fire would have happened in Shanghai or Beijing, would the news be the same or would it be suppressed? Of course, it would be suppressed. There are actually a lot of fires breaking out in China, but we don't hear about them. Mainstream media don't report them because the state media doesn't. And if they're on social media, they're suppressed. Yeah. All right. Oh, here's a question. Angie MLL. Did you hear about Chen Duling? It said that she died. Chen Duling. Chen Duling. Who is Chen Duling? Chen Duling. I'm sorry. I don't know who that is. Oregon Valley Girl. Thanks, Lei and team. Well, thank you. All right. That's all for tonight. Oh, someone asked me what happened to the 4 women beaten in a restaurant in 2022. What I heard is that they died. Yeah, that's what I heard. Okay. Someone asked me, did you know that the British psychic Craig Hamilton Parker already predicted these buildings burn down in 2023? Yes. I saw the replay of his prediction. He did say in 2023 that there will be a massive fire in Hong Kong. And so he obviously saw the fire 2 years in advance. All right, that's all for tonight. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll see you next week. Bye.